on Sunday night first? Okay, good. We could preview that, the Packers.
All right, welcome back to Jocks with Doctors podcast. We've been off the last couple of weeks, been busy with the family and holidays and everything going on. Hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving. So I think this week we were going to kick it off with some Sunday night football to discuss with the Eagles and Packers. And what are your guys' thoughts? What do you think the outcome's going to be? Who you got winning? Who you got losing? Are the Packers done for the year?
What does the fan in me say? The fan in me says that there's always an outside chance when you got number 12 throwing the ball. Aaron Rodgers, far bigger feats than this. I think it was – they talked about this a couple of years ago where they were in a position like this and they ended up running the table and making the playoffs. Now, do the Packers pull that off again this year? I don't think so. This team is not built to beat – I don't think they're going to beat the Eagles. I don't think it's going to be close. I don't think they have the defensive line to keep pressure on Jalen Hurts. And watching them last week, they had one job, stop Derrick Henry, which they did. Kept him underneath 100 yards. I think he only had one rushing touchdown. But they made now I can't think of the fucker's name. Tannehill. They made Tannehill look like an MVP quarterback. 330 yards passing. I think he had, 3 touchdowns? I mean, they couldn't stop him. When you don't have the front 5 and front 7 to get to the quarterback, you can't play off on the wide receivers. You need to press the defense. Press the wide receivers. Get up in their faces. Don't allow them to run 5 yards out and have the ball in their face already. And that's all the Packers defense has been doing that, allowing that for the last 8 games. Joe Barry was not a good defensive coordinator before he got hired. He's still not a good defensive coordinator. They don't make big changes like this usually during the middle of the season. But if you can fire a head coach, Mike McCarthy, 3 years ago in the middle of the season, you should have no problems getting rid of Joe Barry because this defense is awful. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to run all over us. And I think each one of the running backs coming out of the backfield will have a touchdown tonight. I think they win going away. I don't think the Packers have a chance.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot for them to make the playoffs because, there's an outside shot because you got, Washington at 7-5, but, that's still – you got to hope for a lot of teams losing and the Packers going on.
And that's going to – I don't see that happening. You got 3 teams we talked about a couple of weeks ago out of the NFC East who are probably playoff bound. Giants, Philly, and the Cowboys. That's 3 teams out of the NFC right there. Then you're going to get San Francisco, who's probably going to win that division. I just don't see then the Vikings coming out of the North, and then the wild card teams. I just don't see the Packers even coming close to that.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with Ty. I just don't see the Packers making it to the playoffs. And I think they keep the game closer. I don't think they get blown out like Ty was saying there. But long as you have number 12, I believe in Rodgers. And we'll see if they can keep it close. Run the ball, get the ball to Watson, play defense, which you guys have not been playing defense all year, unfortunately. But I do think you guys can slow down the run, though. I mean, you say you guys don't have defensive linemen. You guys have some good defensive linemen. They've been banged up, that's for sure. You guys had dealt with a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. It would be nice if Bakhtiari would fucking play a snap for 3 years. That would be nice. So, but no, I think the Eagles win the game, but it's going to be close. Who do you think can stop the Eagles right now? I think the only team that's really
the Commanders
positioned. Well, other than the Commanders, I think that was a one-off. But I think that was a divisional game. But I think the only team, honestly, is Dallas and the 49ers. The Niners have the front 7. They have the secondary that can do it. Jimmy G, I don't know why people were trying to rub it. We talked about this earlier in the year, Brad, you and I. I like Jimmy G in San Francisco. I think outside of San Francisco, he's not the right quarterback. But in that offense with Kyle Shanahan, he proved it again today. All he does is win. I mean, go look at his record the last 3 years since he's come over. I mean, I think he's plus 26 wins. I mean, all he does is
chance.
Win. And Trey Lance, I think, is going to be good, but he shouldn't be with the Niners. I think Trey needs to go to a different team.
Send him to Atlanta.
To Atlanta or somewhere else.
Tampa Bay.
He'll get a deal somewhere else, but he's just not going to play. I think Jimmy G is going to sign a big contract in the
especially if he leads the 49ers
to the
but any type of playoff run or a deep playoff run. I mean, how you get a guy that brings you to the NFC Championship game and then
I think
start a guy that was a rookie the year before, I just don't understand. You know, I mean, if he's a system, Trent Dilfer won a Super
doesn't
Bowl.
make sense.
I mean, the guy is not a Hall of Fame quarterback, but the guy won with a great defense. You know, in Baltimore.
Yep. Yeah, and he made one.
Same with Flacco.
Flacco played better. But Trent Dilfer in that 2000 Super Bowl made one throw to Brandon Stokely up the slot. Remember that? That was it. And that's all he needed. You got Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and Peter Boulware, all those linebackers, Ray Lewis, right? So, yeah, defense carried that. But Trent Dilfer.
I'm just referring to, if Jimmy G fits your scheme and he's doing what he's got to do to get you, I just don't understand why you would want to force their hand and to get rid of him. I mean,
right.
He had a fortunate, injury that kept him basically on the roster because I don't think he would have been on the team had he been healthy.
And what's the point in getting rid of a serviceable quarterback? I mean, if the guy's playing decent for you, why try and go get a flash-in-the-pan rookie quarterback that might be something that you're hoping is going to get wins when you got a guy that's not playing horribly bad?
Jimmy G wasn't their project. Wins. That was somebody else's.
It doesn't make any sense.
He was on that team that he was an inherited piece. So, they don't talk about it as much. The NFL, I mean, it's all about, these are my guys. This is what I built the team, not these pieces that came along with it. Look at, the year Tony Dungy he left Tampa Bay and then John Gruden took over and he won a Super Bowl. Nobody claims that to be Gruden's team. Yeah, he coached them to a Super Bowl.
Right.
We all know whose team that was. Yeah.
Who put the team? Just like look at Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin, right? Same thing. Tomlin came in and won it.
Yep.
Second year, rookie year, Ben went 15-1. Second year, they won the championship, right, under Tomlin. So same thing. Yeah, I agree. But Jimmy G's more than serviceable than, say, Brad Johnson was in the year that John Gruden won it. And then also, who are we talking about? Oh, Trent Dilfer. So those guys are serviceable. Jimmy G is above that. You give him credit when credit's due.
Yeah.
So
I mean, compared to, the Rodgers, the Mahomes, the Josh Allens, he's not the
Drew Brees,
biggest, flashiest quarterback, that's going to put up 400 or 500 yards a game or put a team on his back.
Regardless,
but he doesn't
that type of quarterback.
For tonight's game, for the Packers, for them to win, they have to stop Jalen Hurts. I think if they can keep him and force him to make bad decisions, I think the Packers can win. But that requires the defense to be playing extremely well. And they did a good job covering Diggs when they played Buffalo and Josh Allen. And I think that Allen and Jalen Hurts are similar in types of quarterbacks, is that they can scramble and run and they can pass the ball really well. And A.J. Brown, I think Diggs is a better wide receiver than A.J. Brown, but, those are comparable. And they did a decent job staying in the game. And it was the offense that caused the turnovers. Rodgers thrown an interception, that pretty much sealed it. I just don't see the Packers. You watch the defense play and they've just, it almost looks like they've given up. They don't know. Everybody's pointing at each other and who's supposed to be covering this and who's supposed to be covering that. This defense is just not playing together. We talked about a couple weeks ago how this team still does not have an identity and we don't know who it is. Congratulations at our rookie wide receiver, for the first, 7 weeks of the season, couldn't catch a damn ball. And then the last 3 weeks, he's got 6-7 touchdowns. He leads all rookies in yards and touchdowns now in a matter of 3 games. I wish that would have started sooner, and hopefully this, it gels. But you play a team like Dallas, who's probably one of the better teams in the NFC, and you beat them in Green Bay, and then you go on the road to Detroit and lose. I mean, you just can't do that.
And you're still going to have to face, Minnesota, who's played really well as of late, too. They could be another team that could be up there that competing with the Eagles.
No, they're fool's gold. Look what happened in in
But the way they played against Buffalo?
Minnesota. I know, but then they went to at home against Cowboys and they got drugged. So they're fool's gold.
Yeah.
Do not believe in a team that is Kirk Cousins as the quarterback.
He's been surprising this year. I will say that.
But the Vikings defense, I give them credit. They've been playing very good other than that Dallas game. We'll see.
Jefferson, he's a freaking hell of a wide receiver. He's, numbers outpassed Randy Moss.
I still can't believe the Bears passed on him. It's just and the Eagles. It's just so funny. Eagles are okay because now they got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But if you're a Bears fan, how do you pass on?
Well, it's the same team that passed on Patrick Mahomes.
The Bears continue.
It took.
I didn't want to. I was being nice, Ty.
They moved up from Mitch Trubisky, who's now playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well,
he's not even playing
on the
for us
roster,
anymore.
but I'm just saying.
He's riding the pine.
Yeah, he was there. So I was at the game, and he was there with his wife. Yeah. I got to see him and his wife at the game Sunday that we lost. Steelers played better that game, but Mitch didn't get it in that game because Pickett stayed healthy, even though poor guy had no time.
Everybody was questioning. They were when the draft happened, they were like, "What the hell are they thinking? Picking freaking Mitch Trubisky?"
Yeah, and moving up for it, not just picking him. It was okay if you stand pat and pick him, but no, you move up, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're going to get Mahomes. Oh, this is guaranteed." And I was one of them. And then it's Mitchell Trubisky, quarterback from North Carolina, who didn't even start, by the way, his freshman and sophomore year.
Right.
Just makes you scratch your head.
Boneheaded move. I don't know.
Yep.
It didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I can think what was some of the other games that happened today that we can discuss. I think we were talking beforehand with this comeback player of the year will probably be Geno Smith, who's played really well this year.
That game's
same
going
team that freaking Wilson had. You had the Bengals who beat the Titans. Buccaneers looking terrible.
Did they
freaking the Jets? Their quarterback
Mike White, he absolutely destroyed the Bears. It'd been interesting. But at the same time, they didn't have. They had what's his name? He played for the Broncos. Their backup quarterback was starting today. Simeon, he was Simeon today.
Simeon.
He started strong, and then, but without Fields, who's their leading rusher on their team? That's a different. I think it's a different game. But the Jets did look really good on offense today. I'll be interested to see if they keep Zach Wilson on the bench and stick with Mike White.
He's done. He's going to get traded.
He's not liked by team. Well, he lost Salah. I like their coach a lot. Brad, you and I talked about this in the beginning of the year. Jets were one of my picks to go to the playoffs for the simple fact is I believe in him. If White, I like Mike White. If he struggles though, they got. I was
surprised when I saw Mike White starting today when they said Zach Wilson was benched, and I was like, "Oh, Flacco's going to start."
Flacco?
Because I was thinking, man, I picked the Jets to beat the Bears, and now that both the backups are playing, I'm like, where the hell is Flacco? At least I'd know who he could do. And then this Mike White guy goes off for 300 yards and touchdowns.
And made it look good. And he's getting it to Garrett Wilson and the guy who just requested a trade 2 weeks ago, Elijah Moore, who I like a lot. I think he's good. He was drafted last year high pick. And Garrett Wilson this year, a high pick from Ohio State. So they got weapons. They even have, what's his name? Another receiver, Corey Davis. Remember him, the number 7 pick from the Titans 3 years ago. Right. So they got 3 very first-round talent receivers to go along with a strong offensive line who's missing, by the way, their number 1 pick, the left tackle, out for the year. So the Jets, I think they're for real. I never believed in Zach Wilson one day.
Well, that's just you look at that draft class that he was part of. That's just more proof that was just a terrible draft class of QBs because Sam Darnold was in that draft class. Wouldn't
No, Sam Darnold was before. Sam was before. Yeah.
I thought he was in the same draft class.
Yeah, no, Sam was before, but at least, hey, Sam beat your Broncos today. With the Panthers. That's a
wet paper bag could beat the Broncos.
Okay, and there's no such thing as a good USC quarterback. But this kid coming out, if he comes out this year, Caleb Williams, who's going to win the Heisman, by the way, a junior, he's going to be, I think, the best because he's a dual threat. He's the only dual threat we've ever had at USC. Well, since I've been alive, since the 80s. So Should
I'm
be
sure
interesting.
the Seahawks will enjoy that freaking number 1 draft pick. I'm sure.
Well, they're going to overtime right now. Gino just
Yeah, I was sitting here looking at I was driving around this week earlier, and
pissed.
The Buccaneers just lost the Browns today, so now they're 5-6. Packers are 4-7.
But they're still winning.
The big difference between
But they're winning the division.
the fucking NFL's golden boy and Aaron Rodgers is
Division.
a 3 or 4 year age gap between the two. Arguably, Brady has better talent on his team.
Well, I think it's
and he's got a better defense on offense and defense.
Yep.
But Aaron Rodgers is the one that's washed up right now. To me, it looks like the golden boy either has too much divorce distracted on his mind, or he has just lost it.
I think he's just lost it. Age.
I think it might be both. He's actually 44. Aaron is 38, so 6-year difference. But either way, Brady has lost the step. You see it; his ball's not coming out.
I'm just tired of the NFL riding Rodgers saying he's done.
The receivers
can't throw the ball, and he doesn't look the same. I mean, well, of course he doesn't look the same. But then when it turns around, and these 5-6 Buccaneers, they're going to make every excuse for Tom Brady. But he's got he's got 3 times the talent. The difference just on offensive alone. His 3 top wide receivers, not to mention, like for running backs, I think the Packers have one of the better running back duos in the league. But then when it comes to wide receivers and the defense, the Buccaneers would have that. And we beat the Buccaneers this year.
I think Brady gets a pass.
It's in the past. It's in the past. It don't matter what you won behind you when you're trying to play for this season. And you're 5-6.
I agree. And the Steelers beat the Buccaneers this year in Tampa Bay. That's not saying much. So Tom Brady has lost it. This is his last year. If Jimmy G leaves San Francisco, I think Tom Brady goes to San Francisco. Grew up there, is a huge Niner fan.
He just needs to retire.
I just don't think Jimmy G. Yeah, I don't think Jimmy G leaves. If I'm Kyle Shanahan and
he's the GM.
Is John Lynch still there in San Francisco?
Yep, he's still the GM.
He's still the GM. So if I'm John Lynch, I'm already talking to the agent right now. What can we do in the offseason to lock him up to 5-6 year deal for Jimmy G? And he needs to get paid. And it'll be worth it because Trey Lance is not the guy. So
no, and that's what I don't get. A lot of these teams end up going for, and not that there aren't bad QBs that's in 1AA or whatever Division 2, because that's where Lance came from, along with Wentz, Carson Wentz. Allen was from Wyoming, but I just don't think the competition you play against in the Division 2 is not the same.
Well, Wyoming,
and I think that's why these guys are exposed.
Yeah, but Wyoming was in that division before. Remember?
But I think Josh Allen is an outlier because he was passed over by a lot of people.
Yeah, because they didn't believe in him.
He would be probably Division 1 if it hadn't been for those teams that passed him over.
I agree.
But those are on those teams. But you got Wentz and Trey Lance that, they played for North Dakota State, and I just don't think they were playing against a high enough competition.
Yeah, well, obviously it shows, huh?
You mentioned so you mentioned
I guess we can
quarterback out of USC. I noticed that they got bumped up into the top 4 in college football EP poll. Ohio State falling to number 5.
Yep.
Michigan didn't just beat Ohio State. They manhandled them. Yeah,
they beat
Ohio State. All the shit talking that you hear between those two teams.
They don't play
to come out and I was watching Notre Dame and USC last night, and Kirk Herbstreit said it best. It wasn't that they lost. If it was like a close game, but it's how they lost. They're only one loss. So to fall all the way to number 5, where it looks like Alabama, Tennessee, and Penn State start the 2 lost teams, but Ohio State or USC, if either of those 2 teams lose again, Alabama's going to sneak its way back into the top 4.
I disagree. I disagree. We talked about this before. USC lost 1 game this year at home to Utah, 43-42. Close game. USC has a very good strength of schedule this year. Not as good as Alabama, but they only have 1 loss. You lose in the Pac-12 championship, which I think they beat Utah this time. It's in a neutral field at Vegas, there where the Raiders play, Allegiant Stadium. So I think the Trojans win, and it puts the exclamation point on his Heisman Trophy for Caleb Williams. So that's what I got. That's what I think. TCU, another team, is undefeated, but who does TCU play?
I think the last time
they didn't beat anybody
had
this year.
A solid team like
Nobody.
this, Dalton was their quarterback. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that? Andy's quarterbacking for the Saints lost
San
today.
Francisco.
Who they played today? They got the L. Yeah. San Francisco's too much, right? So, yeah. So, but it is possible, like Ty said, that would piss me off if Ohio State sneaks in there. Alabama, I think, has the better chance if USC slips up.
Well, TCU has played some good teams. I mean, they played Oklahoma, Kansas, Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma is not a good team, Brad.
They're ranked number 18. They're not a terrible team.
They're not. They shouldn't be.
Compared to what Ohio State has had.
Oh, okay, I agree. They played more. Yeah, Ohio State's, other than Michigan, I told you, they haven't played anyone.
Penn State, Notre Dame, that's been the
Ohio State. If Ohio State kept the game close against you guys, they have a case, but they didn't.
Right.
And it was at home, and you got drugged. You almost gave up 300 yards rushing. Are you kidding me? No way.
Nope.
I'm just happy Tennessee lost, which was tough for them, and LSU lost, and Clemson lost, so that made it easier for USC, even though they were 6 to come up, right? Because you had 3 top 10 teams lose yesterday. LSU, that was a bad loss on the road there. Number 6 or number 5, they were in front of USC. So if they win, they might have taken that 4th spot over SC, even though SC beat a tough Notre Dame team,
right?
Albeit at home. It wasn't
Georgia?
in South Bend. It was at the Coliseum. Michigan. We talked about it. That's it. Only Michigan.
That's the only team.
We would get drugged. USC's too small up front. We're probably the smallest front 7 in the whole country. We're so small. We're fast.
I think Michigan this year, they're better than they were last year. And I mean, granted, they
you're better.
Didn't play that well on the big stage last year, but I think this year is completely different.
You guys are better.
A different team. They're a second half team that, even if they're struggling in the first half, they pour it on in the second half.
Yep. Run the ball.
They've manhandled pretty much every team that they have played, except maybe Maryland, I think was the only tight one they had. And
if Harbaugh makes it back to the national championship this year,
Illinois and Indiana,
and win or lose, does he stay at Michigan?
Yes.
I think he stays.
With the 2 years that he's beat Ohio State, that has kept him with that team.
I like Harbaugh. I don't see him living. I know everyone keeps thinking he's going to go to the NFL now that the are looking for a coach. What's the team? What the hell's? I can't even remember the
Carolina.
team.
Didn't they fire their
coach? Who just fired their coach?
Haven't they fired Carolina?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think he'd go to Carolina, but a team that Jim would definitely jump to the NFL would be the Bears. But I don't see them getting rid of Eberflus. I like him. I think he's the right guy.
If they're going to sign Harbaugh, they should have done
Harbaugh,
I'm a Packer fan. As a Packers fan,
I think if Harbaugh wanted to leave,
look what he did with Colin Kaepernick. And then when he wanted more power, San Francisco was like, "You can go F yourself," and he's like, "Fine, I'll go play college. I'll go coach college."
Yeah, which is better for he's a college coach though. Not a lot of guys could jump up and do well.
And if he wanted to go back to the NFL, he would have. He would have left, I think, already. But I think he enjoys being in a college and coaching young men versus coaching grown men.
Yeah, the one coach I think that's on the hot seat that will be leaving, which a good job is the Cardinals.
I think this is last year.
They're in Arizona.
Yeah,
I think he gets. And guess who's coming? Sean Payton. Watch.
Yeah,
Sean's going to take that job.
I can see that.
Because that team's got a lot.
The defensive coach from the Broncos, he could be one that ends up going.
Yeah, he might be a possibility. But I think Sean, if you're the owner of the Cardinals, Bidwell, right? Josh Bidwell. If you're him, I think you go and get Sean and bring him in and get as much as you can from Kyler Murray, who last year looked like an MVP, right? Start the season, and then he tailed off, but they got the talent out there. Arizona
Kingsbury is probably more suited for the NCAA college as well.
Yeah, he's definitely a college coach. He'll go. I think Nebraska just hired their new coach, and then Wisconsin just announced this morning that they're hiring Fickle right from Cincinnati. I think that's a good pickup for them. So jobs are getting snatched up now. So we'll see. A lot like Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. Remember, everyone was shocked. And then he went to SC. No one saw SC being that good this year, right? The first year. And look what Lincoln's able to do.
Right.
And this is not even his players.
Yeah.
So you can do that in college. Go from no one to somebody.
I think a lot of the transfer portal shit is going to play a big difference too. I
Lincoln.
think, being able to entice players.
Yes.
And
that definitely.
I don't see anybody beating Georgia. I think the SEC is probably one of the toughest conferences in all of football, college football. I think the Big Ten is probably one of the most overrated conferences in college football. They do this every year.
They would overrate
it because Ohio State talk about every year. And even last year, I think both Georgia and Michigan each had a loss, and Georgia just manhandled them.
But
is Georgia
this
any
team's
different?
Different though, Ty. I promise you. Up front.
So you're saying they can keep
Georgia
it closer
is
versus just getting their
they're
kicked?
No, I think Michigan can beat them because of the size difference.
If you look at the top four right now,
got the best offensive line in the country.
The only two teams that I see staying the same is Michigan and Georgia. I think the last two teams in are going to. I just don't see the SEC being Alabama being left out. I think somehow they get put in there, especially if TCU loses.
Well, and I think TCU loses, and then that would bring in Alabama. That puts USC up to 3 if they beat Utah, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Because Michigan, they're not going anywhere, and neither is Georgia in the SEC championship. They're gonna blow out.
Of course, they have the playoffs, so it ended up being Georgia versus
even if Georgia loses,
Alabama, and then
even if Georgia loses,
USC versus Michigan.
Correct. Yep. Correct. No. They don't fall out of the top 4. I don't even think they fall out of the top 2. If they lose in the
they'll just end up like they did last year.
They're going to number 2.
They lost that game because a lesser matchup before they get to the national championship.
Yep.
A lesser matchup. Yeah, they wouldn't have to face Alabama. They'd have to face USC. And Georgia matches up very good against USC because they're big, they're massive, and we're the smallest team. That's why USC doesn't want to see any of those teams. But I think the best matchup for USC would be TCU. They have a chance to beat them. But I don't think it stays that way. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Well, I guess we can transition. I don't think we've really touched on the NBA too much the last couple of weeks. So we could probably touch on early part of the NBA. How you guys liking the season so far?
I mean,
trash. And I'm the biggest basketball player.
What surprises me is that I saw a stat about LeBron James. When he came into the league, he was averaging 38 points. He was like 38 and 6 or something like that. And he's now almost 37, 38, however old he is, and he's still averaging 39 freaking points.
No, he's not averaging 39 points a game.
Or that's what I don't know. I saw some freaking thing on Facebook. 39.6 or whatever, something like that. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, that's not his points. No, he's never averaged over, I think, 35. This is high.
But it's still crazy to be his age and just shows how much of an athlete he is.
Yeah, and he stayed healthy all those years, but these last 3 years,
most of his injuries come from flops anyway.
Injuries. But the NBA is trash. Yeah, it's trash. The NBA is trash this year. And, and I'm a diehard Laker fan. We look horrible. We're the slowest team in the league. No, I still watch the NBA, but it's unfortunately what's happened is everyone travels, and every single possession it's a 3. Everyone's just chucking up threes. Teams are shooting 70, 80 threes a game now. And so it's become a transition 3-point game. No one's the half-court offense, the Tim Duncan Spurs and the Rockets dumping the ball to Olajuwon and stuff. Those days are over.
That's all gone now. It's all gone. I think it's more Euro basketball now than
it is. Yep,
because it's what a lot of the teams are. Is most of the teams are from Europe.
Yeah, a lot of it
from Europe.
Yeah, they like to shoot the 3 and no defense in either game. I mean, I think the Lakers beat who'd they play the other night? The Spurs, 143 to 138. What the hell is that?
Damn.
That's just they won, but that's just no defense by either team.
You've never seen that years ago.
Nope.
Back when
You couldn't
Jordan
even
was playing, and
yeah, you go to the lane and you get killed.
yeah,
Remember the
you were
Lakers and
getting
the
destroyed.
Celtics and the Heat and the Knicks. Remember those matchups? Oh man,
Yeah, when freaking Paul Pierce and them were playing, that ain't happening.
it ain't happening. Kobe was getting killed in that finals,
Mm-hmm.
back-to-back finals when the Celtics won the first one, and then Kobe came back in 06 and returned the favor, and they beat the Celtics. But yeah, that was
I'm just
basketball.
glad to see Brooklyn just blowing up because they pissed me off so much. I can't stand Durant. I can't stand freaking
Kyrie, Ben Simmons.
Kyrie. I can't stand Ben Simmons.
you know,
He's a freaking baby.
I'm not surprised by the way that Kyrie has been his whole NBA career. Because if you think about when he was at Duke, he played sparingly because he was hurt or he had a toe injury.
He was a diva.
He didn't even play that much. He was one of Coach K's first one and done players when he started recruiting in that direction. And Kyrie Irving didn't even play the entire season. It still was a lot.
He thought he was. Yeah, because he knew he tried to be bigger than the system there at Duke, and Coach K talked about it and said that was his only player. Kyrie acts like he's the best player to go to Duke. The best player to ever come out of Duke was Grant Hill. He's the greatest ever. It wasn't even Coach K talked about it, but
yep.
Grant Hill bought into the system, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Grant Hill wasn't even the most. He didn't lead the team in scoring or rebounding, assists, steals, but Grant did it all. Then you had Leitner, right? Christian Leitner, who was, I mean, as far as college players go, he's one of the greatest ever.
Elton
I mean,
Brand is another one
look
that
at the stats.
stands out as
the amount of scoring he did. I like Elton Brand a lot, but when it comes to talent, though, nobody had more talent than Kyrie
The talent
Irving.
was there. It was
I
just
promise you
what was
that.
in between the ears.
Grant Hill spoke on that. It's what's in between the ears. Well, he still thinks the world's flat, Ty. And he says dinosaurs never existed. Did you see that shit at his home? He did like some sort of podcast with LeBron, and he still talks about it, that dinosaurs were only eggs. They never existed.
Well, see,
They're
and,
only eggs.
I haven't really watched, the NBA since probably, the 90s. Probably after Jordan left is when I really kind of stopped really paying attention to it. Charlotte lost their team and they went to New Orleans, became the Pelicans, and then Charlotte eventually got their own team back and became the Bobcats before Jordan took over, and there was a big petition to become the Charlotte Hornets again.
There you go.
But you go back to that time frame and you watch ESPN 30 for 30s, and they talk about Reggie Miller and the Pacers, or the Boston Celtics versus the LA Lakers and that rivalry, and some of those the Detroit Pistons, and some of those players and some of those teams, and how physical they were. And then you look at what the NBA is at right now, and you're like, where the hell did this league come from? And it's like, what do you do to fix the league? Because right now, you have LeBron James, which most people would probably anoint better than MJ, and to this day I disagree with him. I don't think he's better than Kobe. I think he's probably top 5 greatest of all time, but I don't think he's better than MJ or Kobe. But how do you go back to those times? Because it's never going to be, I remember when MJ played. Well, we needed people. You want to bring those guys back, and those type of fans back when we enjoyed watching the game, and not, I blew on you or I run by you and you fall over and flop. They try to come in this flopping.
They need the
rule
physicality back
to implement. Has done some things, but it's just. I mean, there was guys that were getting technical fouls this year that you're like, what the hell? What the hell are you thinking, the ref? It's an embarrassment. The league to me is an embarrassment to watch. I love watching Curry and the Golden State Warriors because it's fun to watch. They're exciting. They're fast paced. They're constantly hitting those threes because I'm the 5'6" short white guy that could never play basketball in my entire life. But watching somebody like Seth come in and just dominate the way he has, it's fun to watch. I like watching him play. There's sometimes that I like watching the Milwaukee Bucks play. I get to see them more often on TV because, living in the Chicago area. I mean, Travis, you live in Kenosha, so you could probably watch them every night that they're on. But, it's so few and far between because everybody wants to focus on the Lakers, who are 7-11 right now. Like, ESPN continues to cover these teams that are garbage.
Right, we're trash. We're trash.
You're wondering, well, you know what? I don't give a fuck about LeBron. He's on one of the worst teams in the league. I don't care. let's
Yeah.
talk about some of these
Yeah.
other teams and how. I mean, like you see teams like the Celtics and the Bucks. You know, those guys are. I mean, like what have the Raptors done since?
Yep.
You know, they blew up their team after winning the finals. You know, like this one and done type stuff is just,
Nothing.
you know, the Phoenix Suns, you feel for those guys who are constantly playing really well and they're always getting to the playoffs, making deep runs, you know, and then they just fall short coming out of the West. You know, like I just don't think that the NBA is what it used to be. You know, I mean, like I remember, you know, hitting record, you know, listening to Marv Albert call, you know, Bulls championship games when they were playing the Sonics, you know, or you know, like you loved hearing, you know, Marv Albert and the Utah Jazz playing, you know, Karl Malone and John Stockton. Like, there's nothing to draw me in. There's nothing to draw me in.
Well, even when Jordan retired the first time, and you had Hakeem Olajuwon, you know,
retired
in Atlanta the first couple of those 2 seasons.
Hey, we're going to suspend you for 2 years for gambling, but we'll just call it
retired.
retired.
I mean, they were still, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, those were still competitive years, and now it's like, you know, who you got? You got nobody that's like the face of the NBA anymore besides LeBron. I mean,
well, I think Ty said
like,
Giannis is the face of the NBA. I like he's
and
great.
Luka.
What Giannis did by signing the Milwaukee Bucks after he could have left and signed a huge contract at a big, big market, but he stayed in Milwaukee. I think
with the Lakers,
huge
with the Lakers.
It shows who his character was, and you know, and he instantly became one of my favorite players in the NBA, not only to watch but to cheer for. You know, because I don't see Seth Curry leaving Golden State. He might. Maybe he wants to go play in Charlotte like on his final 2 years because his dad played there. But you know, it's like, maybe like before I retire, it'd be cool to wear the jersey that my dad did type stuff. But you give him a pass on that. But you know, Giannis could have made multi-millions of dollars to go play in LA. You know, either the Clippers or the Lakers. You know, and make those big market money. And he decided to stay in Milwaukee with that crew, and that just shows a lot about who he is.
Well, yeah, it shows a lot about who he is, and he's got a brain between his ears because he doesn't want to pay those California taxes. Trust me. So that $400 million deal he's going to be signing here with Milwaukee will be very good in the state of Wisconsin. But no, to get back to the NBA, it's tough to watch. I agree with Ty. As much as I'm a diehard Laker fan, I enjoy watching Steph Curry. Klay Thompson, when he's healthy, he doesn't look right again. You can see something's not right with that knee again. Golden State struggled. I think their record's actually worse than the Lakers now after the loss. So, they're struggling because of health-wise, but they'll be there in the end. Draymond Green, I think, is getting up there in age, even though he's younger than Steph, but, he plays a different brand of basketball, very tough, kind of like a pit bull. But now the Warriors are fun to watch. That's in the West, right? So you got out West, you got Steph with the Warriors. Damian Lillard with the Blazers is good, but he doesn't have any help out there. And you got the Nuggets with Jokic, so he's fun to watch. He's a fun big.
That's a problem with the West Coast teams, though. You never get to see him on TV.
Again,
9:00 at night they'll start. And these games take forever.
Right, till midnight, and it's too late. You got to wake up, get to go to work. So no one watches the Trailblazers and the Nuggets, and unless it's the primetime game, that's it. So. Yeah, it's NBA has gone downhill very fast ever since they lost the old commissioner right before he died.
Stern,
David Stern, and I like Stern a lot. This new guy is a very analytic, comes from a background of he's a geeky techie guy. So Adam Silver, so he's helped the NBA there, and they're making a lot of money. But the brand itself, the style of basketball it's. You remember NBC when it come on now. When you remember the NBC? I can hear it. Remember NBA Jam when we were in? That's what it was about. They don't get us in like that anymore. You don't get excited to watch.
And I live in Chicago, where the Bulls, went on a tear for 6 championships. And that just is. You don't see anybody you see the jerseys and stuff in stores, but nobody's talking about the Bulls.
No.
Of course, as bad as the Bears are playing, nobody really wants to talk about them either, but they managed to do it somehow. Yeah,
Chicago sports. I was about to say Chicago sports is rough with the White Sox suck, the Cubs, The
Oh,
Blackhawks
man.
suck now. It's really bad to be a Chicago fan. Although the only thing and this has never happened before, Illinois football, college football has been the best sports this year for the state of Illinois. Imagine that. That's the first. That's never. I'm serious. It's never
So it looks
happened.
like the Raiders won in overtime
so.
over the Seahawks,
Yeah.
40-34.
Oh,
Damn.
okay, so they were able to beat them. Yep, walk off.
That's a shocker.
Josh Jacobs, 86-yard walk-off touchdown. Hello, he's good, but the Raiders suck. The Raiders still suck. Everything is right in America.
So I guess like the other thing I don't know how much Travis you watch or anything, but Ty, this is probably in his wheelhouse. How much are you liking WWE right now?
I freaking love it.
Triple H taking
Matter
over.
of fact, Survivor Series is tonight. Oh, actually, no, it was last night. It was last night or tonight. I can't remember. Last night. I haven't had a chance. Like I said, I had family stuff going on.
Last night.
The direction since Vince McMahon has left, you've noticed there was that couple week pause or that lull. Like, what's really going to happen? Is he really gone? And Vinnie Mac and the things that are alleged against him. It's a good thing that he has walked away from the company, and I think Triple H is going to bring back what made WWE great, and that Attitude Era. He cannot go back to complete full Attitude Era. I just don't think it's possible in today's television in today's day and age, which you think would be weird because you think people are a little bit more accepting of all the different things. But I think that he's going to try his best to get a little bit more edgier. You're not going to see the full on, bikini brawls that we saw in the height of the Attitude Era. But I think that you're going to see some,
right.
I mean, even the way that Roman Reigns and his
storytelling,
ability, everybody hated on him, but he's kind of they let him loose and no more script, just go out there and do your thing. And it's really, he's surrounded himself with some people that can help him talk. And I think
Sami Zayn freaking storyline is it cracks me up. I love seeing them break and how much he can break them every week. It cracks me up.
It's entertaining again, not as entertaining as it used to be, but it's getting back to that. I mean, I haven't watched a whole lot of the AEW. I'll watch them, replays later on. It's not as accessible as WWE, and until it does, I'm going to have a hard time spending $50 to watch their pay-per-views. I mean, I don't mind paying the Peacock, monthly fees so I can still stream all the WWE stuff. But I like the direction it's going. Monday Night Raw and SmackDown have been a completely different animal. I mean, even NXT, because Vince McMahon took over NXT and rebranded it at NXT 2.0 and it went to shit. And then
ruined it.
He left and everything's kind of starting to come back to where it needs to be at. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because Triple H actually listens to the wrestlers and what their input is on where they want to see their characters go and what they want to try to do, and kind of gives them the freedom to mess around, where Vince McMahon was like, no, this is what you're going to do. This is how things are going to, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. And I think he just sucked all the fun out of everything. Like you could tell with Daniel Bryan that he was done. Bray Wyatt ended up having to leave because he
watched that pay-per-view when Bray Wyatt came back, and it was awesome. I wish I could have been there just to feel that atmosphere of his return, because his return, Braun Strowman coming back, I think was huge. Bringing some of this talent back that was not properly utilized. I mean, hell, when Braun Strowman got let go, everybody was like, really? But he wasn't put up against, the Big Ben, and he was used as some gimmick. It's not like, I understand what he is, but but he was part of the Wyatt family when he first came in. Yeah,
and he was like the enforcer.
He was that silent guy that just didn't talk, and he just went in there and crushed everybody. And then he turned into, and I love him. He's from North Carolina, by the way, so of course I got a little, little favoritism toward him. But he's a fucking beast, man. But I'm excited for it. I want to see more out of him and see what kind of direction he can go without being just that big sensitive guy that's just there to entertain the kids.
I think what killed it for me like several years ago, when you see guys like Dolph Ziggler. Like, I'm a big Dolph Ziggler fan. That dude is like, he reminds me of Mr. Perfect back in the 90s. Like, that he would get a really good wrestler, but was never given like the recognition I feel like in the push he deserved. Like, he's not going to carry the team, but I think he could, the product, but I think he's still a very good.
He's kind of, I do like him.
wrestler.
He reminds me
like,
a lot of Shawn Michaels when I see him wrestle. He's just a little bit more energetic about it. And, there's, the Miz is another guy that brings a lot of, he brings a lot.
He's so underrated.
But that's the thing, is that you hated him. That's the whole purpose of his character. The more you hate that guy, the better it is.
But now I've like come to appreciate him, like, because he's a hell of a talker on a mic. Holy crap, like, his mic skills are phenomenal.
Well, I can only speak on the Triple H thing. I was happy when I heard about Triple H taking over. I was never a Vince McMahon fan. I always thought he tried to be the Jerry Jones of wrestling, and I just never thought that was good. And it's funny because they are friends, the McMahon, Vince and Jerry. But now that Triple H is back, I'm coming back to watching wrestling. My oldest son, he's huge into wrestling. He loves it, so I'll start watching it again. But it's not going to be like how I was when I watched Shawn Michaels, how Ty had said, or Bret the Hitman Hart. And then when his brother died, you remember that accident, horrible accident.
Yeah.
So Owen Hart, that was tough. But I miss those days of the 90s when we were really into it. So I hope Triple H gets back to that, and I think he will. I think he'll get back to the roots. I think you'll start to see more of the storytelling going into it, as opposed to where it's a bunch of girls just in bikinis and mud wrestling and shit like that.
Well, I think the problem with Vince is, like, he always had the issue of, at least the last 10, 15 years, is he would start a storyline, and then all of a sudden it would just like go away or come. It would just disappear, and you're like, what the hell happened to this person facing this person? Like, he would just go off of some other avenue, direction. You're like, what the hell are you doing? And it would just kill the momentum of any wrestler that was there. I just never understood it.
All the cocaine and hooker parties he was throwing, I'm telling you.
He was past his prime. I felt like
it was
best days of owning the business was just behind him.
Yeah, it was time for him to go. And now, what's going on with his daughter, Stephanie? What's going on there?
She's running part of the company. I think she deals with a lot of it. She was dealing with the social media side of it, but I think she's.
But he still has ownership.
Who's the other guy that's there with him?
The company, as far as
Yeah.
Well, that
the
and
creative direction and
the day-to-day
or whatever. I think Stephanie and Shane, I still think, has some stake in it too. So I mean, he may not be on television, but I think he's got.
I know Shane.
Well, they fired Laurinaitis as well, which was fantastic. I couldn't freaking stand that dude.
Yeah, but Shane was doing. I know Shane was more behind the scenes. Stephanie, too. Yep. So.
Yeah, Laurinaitis, he was a freaking cancer. I'll be excited. Like, the one guy I like right now is like Braun Breaker that's in NXT.
Yep.
Like,
No, I think
Steiner
it's
brothers' nephew or Rick Steiner's son.
Yeah, it's
and
Rick
Scott's nephew. All that dude's like, he just reminds me of Rick and Scott so much. Like, I'm excited to see what that kid does.
Yeah, if he's anything like his
dog
father,
face
right?
gremlin.
Oh, it cracks me up. Like, it's to hear him talk. He sounds like Scott so much, and I'm like, oh my god, this is nuts. That was kind of crazy. I don't know if you saw it, Ty, the crap that happened with AEW with CM Punk.
That dude just attracts freaking drama, man.
He's never going to find a job in wrestling again.
He's
burned too many bridges.
And he's in and out of jail.
I mean, he could go back to WWE and he'd still be welcome back with open arms.
I don't know. Him and Triple H are. I mean, you never say never, because Vince, he was able to bring back, Ultimate Warrior and some of the other guys that.
I'll never forget that when Warrior came back. I guess you never say never. That was my all-time favorite wrestler, and to see that man come back and do what he did, part of WrestleMania, and then show up on Raw the next night, and like that speech that he gave, and they passed away the next damn day.
Passed away. Oh,
I know. It almost
Dude, that sucked. I was like, what the hell?
That was one of
I
my
was happy
all-time
he came
favorite
back,
Raw
though.
moments is when
I
he
was
was
happy.
out there talking about how I got it. As a matter of fact, I got it on a poster up here where he talks. It's that speech. He talks about every man's hard day beats its last or final beat. I'm like, and then he passed away the next day, and you're like,
And then-
holy
Yeah.
shit, like.
And he
Yeah.
did have heart issues, but that was from his steroids. But I miss Ultimate Warrior. What about Macho Man Randy Savage? Came back too, and then he died shortly after.
He had a heart attack driving his Jeep or something in Florida.
Yeah. That's what happened with him.
Steroids too, they said, played a part. But
Which I guess nobody really ever saw Hulk Hogan coming back either.
Well, then,
He came back in the
all
early
that
2000s.
stuff,
I don't
with
think
his
a lot
audio
of
coming
people
out
thought
about
that was going to happen.
some of the things that his words that he said. Yeah.
Oh,
and then
hot mic. Yeah, on the hot mic.
Then
Yep.
he came back. I think it was almost 2 or 3 years because they weren't sure how he was going to be, accepted by not the fans, but by the
The locker room, because he was hated. Because that's just how political he was. He just dictated everything.
You know who I should think makes an appearance? That Triple H reached out, Ric Flair.
Oh God, no!
I know. He just had
brought down in a wheelchair.
He had his final
match
match ever, I guess, not too long ago. It was a couple of months ago. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
For like the 4th time.
Talk about. I love him, but talk about a train wreck. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, he's just a shell of himself. But that's like me and my cousin, like, because we used to watch like wrestling all the time. Like that's like the biggest letdown I think I've ever had is finding out like how much of an a-hole Hulk Hogan is. Like it just like it makes you look like, man.
But then you had good guys like The Rock, and then you had there was a lot of good guys though. Yeah, Stone Cold was another good guy that I liked. Undertaker did a lot
for veterans too.
He's become he's become like one of my favorites, now too. Like after watching, like seeing him outside of wrestling and some of the interviews and stuff he's given since then, it's like
he was on Joe
this
Rogan
guy's
podcast.
a fucking legend.
Yeah, I saw him on Joe Rogan's pod. I love Joe Rogan's pod. Talk about a good podcast.
Yeah, his was good. I mean, Rogan, you could tell didn't know a whole lot about the wrestling industry in itself, but he knew of Undertaker, and he probably had some sort of idea who he was. But the fandom was definitely in that Joe Rogan podcast was his buddy that was helping him out in the podcast. But it was still a really good podcast. It had some really great stories.
Yep.
It's probably one of my favorite ones of the Rogan podcast that I've seen.
Yeah, his was very good, but also the one that he did with Mike Tyson. That one was a really good one too, because it was very raw, and Tyson talked about how he lost, that $100 million in 1 year. How do you blow $100 million? It's just hard for us regular people to. But then you put a $50 million gold plated home. Like, so stupid. There's half your money on a mansion there in Henderson, Nevada, outside of Vegas.
People do stupid things when they think they can't.
It was
They're
very
untouchable.
sad, but well, they think so. Yeah. All
right, gentlemen.
Sad.
Crazy. Well, I guess we can wrap it up this week. It's been about an hour, so we'll wrap it up and hopefully make it back next week. We'll, I know everybody gets busy and everything, so hopefully we
should
can
do these
again next week.
We could either do them on
just do a half hour.
Start looking at like maybe doing them on a Monday night or a Sunday, afternoon or Sunday night sometime. Yeah, I mean,
does this time work for you guys?
That way
like
we can
between
cover all
the games,
stuff,
Yeah, I think Sunday does work better for me. It has to be around this time though, 6 o'clock.
That works fine.
Okay.
You guys playing? Ty, are you playing Call of Duty much?
I play as much as I can. I just got the new Pokemon game, so I've been putting my hands into that.
Travis, you get it yet?
Yeah, I got it. I haven't even downloaded. If you guys get on, let's play.
I just got a PS5 2 weeks ago.
Download it real quick.
I'll put. Yeah, I need to get a PS5.
I got lucky, man.
I can't find it.
I traded in a bunch of my games, and I sold a lightsaber, and next thing you know, I got a PS5.
Yeah. Man, because I was about to say I've been wanting a PS5. Trust me.
Yeah, download that Call of Duty and
I got the new Xbox, but I want the PS5. Yep. Alrighty.
All right. Well, I'll see you later.
All right. All right.